Welcome to wesleygospel.com. Today's subject is going to be why I believe in the supernatural. And, I started off what I believe might turn into a type of a series um, called Understanding the Holy Spirit. I'm going to just start rattling off and going in the direction of supernatural theology, which is which is something I've really wanted to um, get into really deep, but it's just there's so much busyness around uh, personal finance going on in the past 5, 10 years that I believe in some ways maybe that even the devil has um, distracted me from from this, um, and I think it's extremely important to explain um, supernatural theology, mystical theology, whatever you want to call it, and because it just isn't really out there. I mean, is probably Jack Deere and John Wimber are probably, if I was to be perfectly honest, in the past 25 years, see here, 2023, we're minus 25. Yeah, best 25, 30 years, um, were probably the best supernatural theologians that the church has produced, and they're just not even well known anymore. You know, Jack Deere's getting up there in age. John Wimber died in 1997. So now you could say, well, what about Bethel Church? Well, Bethel Church is kind of dicey. Um, I'm talking about theologians where people were really taking them seriously. They were getting into seminary culture, um, and so it's been a while. It's been a while. Um, so what I'm gonna do is start off by a definition. The Collins Dictionary defines the word supernaturalism as belief in the supernatural, especially a belief that some supernatural or divine force controls nature and the universe. Um, Other definitions will involve a belief in the entire spirit world, angels, demons, heaven, hell, etc. So I believe in the supernatural in that sense. I believe that it can be experienced. Um, at the root of it all, in my observation, um, supernaturalism is essentially the belief in the existence of spirits. It The entire idea of the spirit world, of heaven, hell, the three-tiered universe, heaven, earth, hell. Um, None of that would exist if it were not for the belief in spirits, because Jesus said God is a spirit, and He created all those things. And these are also locations where people and beings made of pure spirit abide. So um, there, but wait, there's more. There's also spirits that abide here on earth, but here on earth we have earth suits that we wear called bodies, and then so the spirit realm is often hidden from us, and that is where the faith element comes in, which is part of God's plan to test and to prove and to refine those who would be devout and put their faith in Him. Um, why do I believe in this? Why do I believe in the supernatural? Uh, John Borff, me as an individual, why do I believe in it? This isn't a theologian talking. This isn't me talking about bird's eye view, 50,000-foot view up ahead, up, way up there. I'm not talking about high, lofty, ideas like cessationism versus mysticism. I'm just talking about down here, down to earth, John Borff. Why do I believe in the supernatural? Well, starting out, um, when I was a little boy, um, our family was attending Catholic church services, and for all intents and purposes, we were Catholic. Um, I didn't understand anything about modernism or anything like that in the Catholic Church. So whatever I was taught as a Catholic child, I accepted it at face value and never doubted it. I was taught that I had a soul. I was taught that there was a God above us that looked out after us. I was taught that um, there are angels, there are demons. Um, well, actually, I don't know if I was taught there were demons yet when I was a little boy, but I did know that there was a God and that we needed to say prayers to him and then he could hear us. I knew that I had a soul inside of me, even though I couldn't see it. And what my parents told me, or whatever my church Sunday school um, lady told me, I just accepted it at face value, just like any trusting child would, right? Well, that was better than nothing because when you nurture the faith of a child, they're going to they're going to accept that, and what that will do is open the child up to that reality, and that then puts them in the position to be able to experience those realities because of that innocent trust that the child has in what is being told. So my early Catholic catechisms had some type of an effect on my faith, although I never was uh, taught to pray to Mary or anything like that, not that I remember. Um, so uh, one day early on, um, I was still in my room and and I heard a voice say, "John," and it was just me in there. And I thought it was my mom calling me, to come down maybe for lunch or something. And so I went down and I told her about it, and she said, "No, no, I didn't say anything." And I said, "But I heard my name. I heard you say my name. I heard you say John." Uh, no, no, I didn't say anything, John. Oh, I forgot about the whole thing. It wasn't until I was 21 or 22 years old that I was at a home Bible study group of a Pentecostal pastor. And he told me, when I shared this with him, he told me that sounds exactly like what happened to the boy Samuel in First Samuel. Um, and I was like, wow, I never really thought about that. So that was probably the first supernatural thing that happened to me. I was probably about 6 or 7 years old when that happened. Um, After that point, um, there was a moment where I would start to have I would start to have nightmares. Um, and there's several reasons for this. Um, People have nightmares for all kinds of reasons, but I started to have nightmares from 9, 10, and 11 clearly on a regular basis for a while. And these nightmares that I would have would have a very real element to them at times. I remember some of the dreams from this time period because I had so many of them. And uh, I'm talking 8, 9, and 10 years old. I remember some of the nightmares I had back then, and which is really strange. Um, One of the nightmares I had was where I was in hell, and it was a giant cave system. Uh, and I walked up to the end of the cliff of a cave where everything was just dark and black. How I was able to see anything, I don't know. But it was like I was on the edge of the abyss. And this giant demon uh, comes out of the abyss um, with a huge head, like, I don't know, maybe like a 100-foot head, comes out with this enormous mouth. It's like this giant frog or toad mouth opening up. And I take my sandwich and I throw it into the mouth of this 100-foot demon and to feed it or something. And that was frightening. And it wasn't until I was again in college in my 20s that I was looking up artwork about hell, like Hieronymus Bosch, that I was like, oh my gosh, that's almost like what I dreamed about when I was a little kid. When you have a dream like that, it sticks with you. And it doesn't feel like a dream when you have it. It feels like something different. It feels like you were there, you were somewhere else. You actually were somewhere else. It feels like an out-of-body experience. It's different, and it the feeling, that impression, it never leaves you. The realness of it, it never leaves you. I remember when I was about 10 years old, I had another one of these really realistic demon nightmares. And uh, in this nightmare, a demon was terrifying me in one way or another. And I woke up, or at least I thought I woke up, but actually I didn't. I woke up out of the dream, and I'm laying there on my bed on my back. But wait, I'm not really actually awake. I'm actually still asleep in a dream, but I think that I'm awake, laying on my bed on my back. And this giant demon, this, well, not giant, but this monster hand comes out, comes up from the right hand side of my bed, this big black hand with claws to try to grab at me. Okay. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I finally woke up out of it and everything disappeared. It was like a wake up dream, where you thought you woke up, but actually you didn't. Uh, so that did not feel like just, oh, that's just a dream type thing. Felt there were, when you're in these dreams, it feels extremely real, extremely real. And you really get the sense that these beings are there. You can't see them, but they're there. And these dreams feel extremely real. Like you had a glimpse of these monsters for a moment, and then the blinders were put back on again. But you still know that they're there. They're they're in that hidden realm of the spirit. Um, so these left lasting impressions, these dreams, these nightmares about hell and demons from early childhood on. Um, and eventually, that kind of led to me when my teenage years being interested in horror, or not even that, probably, probably when I was about 10 years old, I started reading the Goosebumps books because they made sense to me. Um, there was something real about them when I read them. And while I wouldn't recommend that Christian kids read those books today, um, it that I could relate to it. I could relate to it because I had experiences similar to that already. And so when I became a teenager, I became interested in horror movies, supernatural horror, because I could understand. I could relate. And so that's why I believe in the supernatural. That's the starting point, at least. Um, is that the interaction of demons with me in my nightmares as a child. That's the starting point. Um, And now, when I got older, um, I became less nightmare oriented for one reason or another. Probably because my interests and my interests became more varied. I got into playing guitar, I got into rock music, I got into having a group of friends around me, I got into skateboarding. And when I think your mind gets focused on other areas, um, the spirit world tends to kind of fade away. The spirit world seems to feed off of how much attention you give to it. Um, and so I just wasn't paying very much attention to that. And so I think that that's why I stopped having these demon nightmares for a good long while. And uh, I also remember, though, as a kid, somewhere around 10, 9, 11, something like this, 8, 9, 10, that whenever we would go to my grandma's house um, out in Western Illinois, this was an old house, and uh, it was a big house. And they had set aside an attic and turned it into a room for me whenever we stayed there. And whenever I went to bed there, I just laying on my back, I always felt this demonic monster type presence, spiritual, dark, evil presence in that room. Uh, I felt it coming out of the closet, and I didn't understand how to call that. Probably the gift of the discerning of spirits that was given to me as a little kid, which is mentioned in 1 Corinthians 12. This idea that you can sense, actually feel the presence of an evil spirit, which direction it's coming from, and exactly what type of spirit it is. And so looking back on that experience, it was probably I was sensing the spirit of fear coming exactly directly from that closet direction. Okay, so this is a 10-year-old. I had the gift of discerning of spirits then, at least in some measure. Um, you know, and just because I had that childlike faith in whatever Catholic catechism taught me. I'm not saying that they taught me that. They didn't. But I was aware there were Catholic saints. I was aware there were monks. I was aware there were miracles. Was part of my early childhood catechism as a Catholic boy. And I actually went through the Catholic confirmation service at age 9. So, this supernaturalism started in the Catholic Church as a child. I thankfully was never exposed to any of the modernism, because if I had stayed in the Catholic Church for 10 more years, I would have heard a lot of the modernist garbage that the older Catholics believed in, which is essentially mainline Protestantism, uh, anti-supernatural ideas borrowed and brought into the Catholic Church, which is really quite incredible. That would be like bringing anti-supernatural ideas into a Pentecostal church. It's just like, what? How did that even happen? But it did. And most Catholics today are anti-supernatural. It's called modernism. It's called liberal Catholicism. Most of them are. Um, and it's crazy. I mean, it literally is like, what if the Assemblies of God became a naturalist church? I mean, that's what it's like. It's crazy. But thankfully, that anti-supernatural rhetoric never hit me. I just had my Catholic uh, child, catechism, and then we moved on. We left the Catholic Church after that point. But I think that the simplicity of faith in the supernatural started there and lasted, and it was good. It was a good influence. Um, after after that point, Um, we our family had joined the United Methodist Church, and I really got nothing out of it. Um, I never really got anything out of that spiritually at all. Um, and and then we, I mean, I never learned about John Wesley while we were there. I never learned about anything. But I went through the um, the confirmation uh, class at Methodist Church because it was just the thing to do. I mean, I didn't have any opposition to it. It's just like, okay, let's just go through this. And I didn't find it, I didn't disagree with anything that was being taught to me. It's just, I didn't gain anything beneficial out of it. Let's put it that way. But in one way or another, I'm not going to say that nothing supernatural was happening during this time because there was supernatural things happening. Um, Again, the demonic. Um, I didn't know about the Holy Spirit as an involved, intervening divine being. I didn't know about this at all during all this time. So that didn't stop the demonic from occasionally rearing its ugly head every once in a while. And so eventually, um, I met a friend in elementary school and went to his house one day, and we played with an Ouija board in his basement. Uh-oh. Yeah, an Ouija board. Okay. Anybody who knows about exorcism and deliverance knows that these things are big no-nos. Okay. So I put my hand on the thing, and then my friend put his hand on the thing, and the thing started moving by itself. We weren't moving it in any direction. We weren't exerting muscle. The thing started moving on the letters, and it spelled out Hell. And I think it was going to go and say hello, but we once it said Hell, I saw hell, and I was like, oh man, dude, I'm pulling off of this. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I think the Holy Spirit just put that fear in me to say stop. Um, it was around this time period, though, that some demonic supernatural stuff started happening again. And um, uh, my sister um, started, she had 3 demonic experiences that were pretty high level around this time period. This is when I was about 12 years old. The first one that I can remember is she saw a ghost of a woman who was blue, emanating in blue color in her room. Now, either A, that was an angel, or B, it was a familiar spirit pretending to be the ghost of a dead person. I don't know. You know. The second thing is she had a collection of dolls and stuffed animals, and one of the dolls was a talking doll, and um, and you had to put batteries into its back and it would talk. Well, this doll didn't have any batteries in it anymore. But it still spoke to her and said, "Mommy, please, let's play house." Like some horror movie, okay? And that horror movie idea comes from this stuff. It's real. A lot of stuff in supernatural horror movies is based on some real experience that some guy had. So she got scared of that. Then there was another time she had her friend over, and she was in the basement, and we had another toy that was um, it was a clown, a little clown uh, fireman, uh, and he had wheels on his feet, and then the wheels, it was a battery powered toy, and the wheels would move on the ground. It was a cute little toy. Well, this was an example of, uh, I'm not sure if the batteries were removed on this one or not, but the bizarre thing about it is that this thing started to turn on by itself, um, with my friend, with my sister and her friend down there. It turned on by itself, and then it started following the girls around the basement. And these girls were screaming. It followed them around the basement. Um, so this stuff started happening, um, and and I remember also around this time period that I was going to bed one night, and we were me and my brother had bunk beds. Brother was on the top, I was on the bottom, and I remember laying on my back trying to go to sleep, and I saw a my first angel sparkle. Um, it was a really bright white light about the size of a quarter that just, and it kind of just stayed there, right, uh, right in front of my face, for about a couple of seconds, and then it disappeared. I told my friend about the light I saw when we were walking in line the other day afterwards, uh, going probably down to the library or something with our class, and he just kind of shrugged it off because I thought, we did the Ouija board thing. He believes in the spirit world. Why is he just shrugging it off? Well, I think some people are just scared by the supernatural. They're scared. They don't want to talk about it. And I think this is another reason why. This is another reason why the supernatural gets brushed aside. It gets brushed under the rug because not only because there's a hiddenness about it, not only because there's a lot of anti-supernatural talk about it, but also because people they're afraid of it. And they're afraid of it. And so much of the supernatural is demonic. So it's scary. Not everybody's into horror. Not everybody's into these things, and so they would just rather talk it out of their mind. They would rather explain it away because once you start to come to accept these things as realities, it can be kind of scary because what you're doing is you're admitting that there are intelligences and there are beings above human, and that there's a feeling of losing control that comes with that, with supernaturalism. You feel like you're losing control because they're doing it, not you. They're doing the thing, not you. You know. However, once you get familiar with it, it becomes what they call in charismatic circles naturally supernatural. What that means is that the supernatural experiences become so commonplace that you get used to them. You get used to them. Wow, I'm almost at the 30-minute mark, the end of this podcast. Okay. Well, fast forward to the age of 14. I got baptized in the Holy Spirit and started speaking in tongues every Sunday at a Pentecostal church. And this was the absolute finalizing point for why I believe in the supernatural. This is not emotion. This is the presence of an entity. The gift of discerning of spirits, that I was able to sense the presence of evil demons coming out of my grandma's closet, that was now kicking in whenever I did Pentecostal worship. But now it was the presence of an entity on my body that loved me, that was holy and that was pure, and there was just a sense of fear of the Lord, of fear and awe. And this happened to me about 50 times. I experienced probably around 25 to 50 baptisms in the Holy Spirit during Pentecostal worship when I was 14 and 15 years old. That's why I believe in the supernatural. God bless you out there. This is John with WesleyGospel.com.